Hello, I am a licensed professional counselor. I wanted to make a video about the topic of psychology generally, and more specifically discuss some arguments I've seen online from other content producers regarding the scientific basis of psychology, and to make a couple of points. None of this is AI. I do not use AIs to make my script. Much of this is based on personal experience and my education. And I think that's going to be important moving forward. I think we need people to offer their perspective, and that ties in with the idea of an objective humanistic experience. And that, to me, I think that's important. A lot of discussion has been made about, soft science of psychology, the data collection methods, the sample sizes being small, or quasi-experiments. And this is all true. The data and how certain variables are measured in psychology is definitely worth looking at and being critical of to some extent, as it is in every field. Every field is peer-reviewed, meaning it has to make sense to the community of people that you're communicating with. And I think it's important to consider that the way you perceive something has an impact, whether or not the information seems to be grounded well in objective science. The subjective experience of how that information is useful on a human level is more what I feel psychology is useful for. Psychology isn't designed to communicate things to individuals as a way things certainly are, whether or not you want to believe them or not. In the same way that, say, like physics, chemistry, mathematics, describes and tests theories about a system that are really easy to replicate most of the time. The nature of science itself is never that it is saying we have proven something, right? It's about providing evidence toward a hypothesis. And some people don't really seem to understand that concept, particularly in the modern era. There appears to be a great deal of splitting in society. Splitting is a psychological concept of deciding someone is all against you or all on your side in one way or the other. And it can be really difficult and challenging to discuss the validity of a social science with somebody who has a really set personality style, and whose belief structure is really rooted in the concept of the objective material rationalist world, where things either are or they are not, right? But psychology teaches you that perception is reality. It describes a way to understand other people, a way to communicate with someone about themselves, and a language tool that can be helpful in a therapeutic environment with a trained professional, somebody who has an interest in helping you discover what your interests are, right? Someone who can assist with a problem, but only as you see it. If you don't believe you have a problem, then a therapist can't help you with it. If you're not interested in your problem, then it's going to be very difficult to actually articulate it and to look at the ways that you're acting or things that you're doing that could make the problem better. That subjectivity is often ridiculed and somehow seen as less than or of being in opposition to an empiricist, rationalist viewpoint. The idea that, we're all going to join this collective where we agree on 3 or 5 fields being very important and other fields not being important, because we can simply agree that things are, right? But the reality is that no two people are ever sharing the same world half the time. You can see that in the media. The way that the world has changed because of the widespread information age and how people interact with information is pretty evident on the nightly news, and I'm sure in just basic conversations you have with human beings. There's a lot of counterfactuals, and there's a certain type of leaning where you're going to encounter a counterfactual as someone who is trying to introduce ideology into your world. And that's why people become reactive. It's not necessarily to somebody's acceptance of a fact or not, but because of their perceived ideology behind what that fact is or isn't, right? Like, I might say, well, I'll believe in rainfall patterns in Arizona when I see the data. And then I'll see the data and I'll say, okay, this is how much it rains in Arizona, maybe, but how do I know that the study was done well, right? Let me look at the research methods and the methodology behind this research, and what's the p-value? How significant were the findings? That's important to understand. A lot of people who talk about science don't really are either like all in for research, and they think that like once you have a paper, a headline, a journal article that says this is a thing, that means that the conversation is over about that kind of thing. And if you push back on that, it causes a lot of stress. And it tends to paint you in sort of a right-leaning doubter point of view. And that's not at all something that I'm advocating for when I talk about the human aspects of psychology and why psychology is a useful tool despite the fact that it is a soft science. I'm not attempting to undermine anybody's personal beliefs or to make it seem like everything that's ever been done by a scientist is somehow biased material. That's not the truth. But because of the ideologies that we live with lately, you can't have a conversation with nuance about these topics. And I think that's a shame. And so that's why I wanted to make this video and just kind of talk about what psychology is and isn't in terms of why it's a good thing. Like, it's a good thing to have a tool to communicate about your subjective experience. If you perceive that you're helped, then you are helped. It's not a matter of I've made an objective, scientific data set that says, like, if my client gets out of bed 6 days a week, then they're better. Well, yeah, they are possibly better, right? But you'll never experience what that person is experiencing. And you'll never be able to make a successful argument that this individual is somehow more mentally healthy. You're only going to be able to make an argument that they're more functional in the ways that society has laid out for them to be. And so that's why the field is very difficult, too. As a therapist, you're often put between the two poles of measurable outcomes and what is your client attempting to do? What are they trying to get out of life that's missing for them? And those things are not always going to be operational. So to wrap up this talk, let's summarize, right? Like, psychology is a way to use a language tool that can describe the world through someone else's eyes. And this is useful because we're losing interest in that as a society. We're moving more energy into the AI sphere, the tech sphere, the concept that we can solve our problems with the right kind of battery, and that if you invent something more complicated, that we're somehow going to be free of our problems. And my final point here is that rationalism, empiricism, and hard science are not inherently oppositional toward soft science or a human experience, because a human is going to have to interact with new technology one way or the other. Your experience of having a job and functioning in society is still going to be a subjective experience, no matter what kind of tools or what kind of qualifications or complications that are continually invented and are put in place. So your experience is still going to matter, and it's still going to leave you with personal options on how to behave, how to act, and how to relate toward others. So that's my thing, is that relating to other people is never going to be done away with entirely. In conclusion, your subjective experience is important. It's important to you, and the way you communicate that to others is important. And without you being part of that equation, there's never going to be any kind of world where you're going to make yourself more happy, bring more things into your life that you enjoy, or relate to people better. What I'm concerned about in the long run is that AI is funneling people towards certain objectives, and that people are in fact being trained all by one source on whatever the subject or the topic is. You're going to lose a lot of imaginative thinking in life. And I know that the reactionary position is that, oh, you're open-minded, so you're so open-minded that you don't believe in science. That's not the point. The point is that the collectivist AI experience is going to kill imagination. It's going to limit the realm of what we know by focusing on only what is known. You have to stay open to the idea that new information can come along. And if we all have the same teacher and we all go to the same classes, we all have kids, learning off the same iPad with the same curriculum that's been, created by machine learning, we're going to have a real strict set of experiences. And the result is, and one that I'm kind of already experiencing, you're going to end up with 3 to 4 kinds of people in the world. And these are the kinds of people who are going to succeed. And any other kind of person, or personality set, neurodivergence, individual experiences that help shape what your personality are, or what you think about on a day-to-day basis, are going to be gone. They're going to go the way of the dinosaur. And you're going to end up with a very sort of solid state society. So something to think about. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you disagree or you liked it, let me know below. And have a great day. Thanks.